The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Stop being mad all the time. Stop just hating all the time. Come on. Let's get some work done together.
Congressman King, the president says that you take these show votes, message votes as he called it, instead of actually voting to help people.
Well, first of all, most of us personally like the president. It's not about mad. It's not about hate. It is about the Constitution. And the president has just simply decided that he can amend the law that has his name on and his signature on it. The law says that the employer mandate shall commence in each month after December of 2013. He announced that he was just going to change it and change the date unilaterally. When Congress said, Mr. President, please don't do this, but we will pass legislation that actually conforms to your allegation, and he said, I'll veto that legislation. So he went so far as to say, I'm going to take your constitutional authority away and don't even try to mimic what I'm doing.
All right. The president says that he's just doing his job when he helps people, but let's take a look at what the Constitution says. Article 1, Section 1 says all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. Article 2, Section 3 says the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Congressman Jeffries, if you read the Constitution, there's no blank check there that the president can help people the way he wants to.
Well, there's no blank check, but that's not what the president has done. This lawsuit is clearly baseless in law or in fact. Under the Take Care Clause of Article 2 of the Constitution, as interpreted consistently by Supreme Court justices, including Chief Justice Rehnquist, the president has the clear discretion to administer, implement, and enforce the law. And as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, that's clearly what he has done. He has not amended the law. He has not abolished the law. What he has done is delay implementation of the employer mandate in stages, consistent with what other presidents have done throughout history, including most recently President George W. Bush, when he delayed penalties connected to Medicare Part D and delayed the enrollment period in 2006, and then turned around with respect to the Small Business Work Opportunity Act of 2007.
All right, let me bring in Congressman King. Your response to that.
Well, the president didn't just simply do a little touch to this from an administrative standpoint. He simply went in and changed the required implementation date that was written by Democrats, passed by Democrats, and signed by our president. And he does not get to make up law out of thin air. He doesn't get to amend it. The Constitution is very clear. Take care that laws are faithfully executed. And if Hakeem really thought that this was right, then why wouldn't the president accept Congress's offer to fix this law and delay the employer mandate? I don't know any reason for that, for the president to simply give the back of the hand to Congress. And he stood before Congress at the State of the Union address, and he said, I will enact laws. He said, I'm going to do it with my ink pen. His cell phone and ink pen quote compressed into his State of the Union address, and Democrats led a standing ovation to cheer the president for taking away Article 1 authority in the United States Constitution.
All right. You know, although the lawsuit is just going to be about Obamacare, the fact is the president's executive actions have been about a lot more than that. Let's put them up on the screen. He deferred deportation of 500,000 people who came here illegally as children. He delayed the employer mandate in Obamacare. He extended federal rights to same-sex couples, and there's actually been a lot more than that. Congressman Jeffries, if the president wants to change the law, doesn't he just have to go to Congress according to Article 1 because all of the legislative function resides in Congress?
Well, every president has the capacity to move forward with executive action, and in fact, this president has been less active in the use of the executive order than President George W. Bush, President Clinton, and President Reagan, all of whom use executive orders in much greater numbers than President Obama. He has the capacity to take limited steps to improve the lives of the American people, consistent with the public policy constraints of the United States Constitution. The only institution, in terms of our separation of powers layout here, that is exceeding its authority are House Republicans and moving forward with a lawsuit that clearly has no basis. There's no congressional standing to sue another branch of government. You can't simply run into the federal court system whenever you have a disagreement with the executive branch, no less in authority on conservative issues and ideology than Justice Scalia has repeatedly made that point. And so it really is time to get back to doing the business of the American people and stop the squabbling related to what seems to be hatred of the President of the United States coming from different quarters throughout the Congress. We've got a serious job situation that we should continue to address.
Congressman King?
Come on, those are well-practiced talking points. Thank you. Those are well-practiced talking points, but they don't really get to the heart of this matter. The President has effectively changed the law of Obamacare. It is the clearest constitutional violation of the separation of powers. I litigated this in Iowa when I brought a case against Tom Vilsack several years ago when he thought he could write law also from the executive bench. But I'd take us over to the immigration law, which is a little bit not quite as clear, but it's almost as clear. The President, as Morton memos, created 4 classes of people.
Okay, we're getting a little bit, Congressman King, we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but let me pick up on the immigration issue because it's a very good example. After the President deferred deportation for about 500,000 of what are called the so-called Dreamers, there was a demand that he just change all of the immigration laws, and last year, here's what he had to say.
If, in fact, I could solve all these problems without passing laws in Congress, then I would do so. But we're also a nation of laws. That's part of our tradition.
But White House officials now say, and they really have been teeing this up, that now it looks like the President will take some major executive action over the course of the summer or right after Labor Day and may even consider deferring the deportations of millions of more illegal immigrants. Congressman King, if he does that, if he goes ahead and unilaterally decides to defer deportations of millions of immigrants, what are you going to do about it?
Well, none of us want to do the thing that's left for us as an alternative. But if the President has decided that he's simply not going to enforce any immigration law, or at least not against anybody except the felons, which essentially he has done already, this is a broader group of people. I think Congress has to sit down and have a serious look at the rest of this Constitution, and that includes that I word that we don't want to say. And I only say that now on this program because I want to encourage the President, please don't put America into a constitutional crisis. Please don't do that. There's too much at stake in this country to be deciding that you can take over the Constitution and write it at will.
But you're saying that if he were to do that, then impeachment would be on the table.
I think then we have to sit down and take a look at that. Where would we draw the line otherwise? If that's not enough to bring that about, then I don't know what would be. We've never seen anything in this country like a president that says, I'm going to make up all immigration law that I choose, and I'm going to drive this thing regardless of the resistance of Congress. That's why I push so hard to get the DACA language out into this legislation that we just passed. It says, Mr. President, you can't do this. It's unconstitutional, and you know it. We want to stop the funding off to implement or enforce DACA. That's the message on...
We got less than a minute left, and I want to bring in Congressman Jeffries. You know, back in 2008, some members of your party, Democrats, filed bills to impeach George W. Bush for his conduct of the Iraq War. Is this any different than what Democrats did to President Bush?
Of course, it's completely different. House Republicans are clearly taking us on a march toward impeachment. And whether
did Democrats excuse me, sir, did Democrats take the House on a march towards impeachment in 2008?
Not at all, because then Speaker Nancy Pelosi clearly said impeachment is off the table. Congress has several other
Basically, that's what John Boehner said this week, too, sir.
John Boehner did not say that. He did not make an unequivocal statement. And to the extent that John Boehner has taken definitive positions before, such as we are not going to shut down the government, he moved forward and shut down the government for 16 days, costing the American people $24 billion in lost economic productivity. So there's no real credibility there. We're not clear who actually is running the House of Representatives. Ted Cruz, the junior senator from Texas, seems to have outsized influence. That's why we're concerned. But, Chris, the focus really should be on doing what's right for the American people, dealing with the pocketbook issues important to the middle class and those who are striving to be part of the middle class.
We're going to have to leave it there. Obviously, a conversation to be continued.
Hakeem wasn't here, but Chairman Conyers held impeachment hearings against George Bush and Dick Cheney. He held those hearings. They took place. He wasn't here. Hakeem wasn't here to see that.
Okay. Well, that's true because he's a first-term congressman. But Congressman Jeffries, Congressman King, thank you both so much. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll, of course, stay on top of this story.
Thank you.
What do you think about the House plan to sue the president? Join the conversation on Facebook with other FNS viewers.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.